During the wedding rehearsal, the groom approaches the pastor with an unusual offer. "Look, I'll give you $100 if you'll change the wedding vows. When you get to the part where I'm supposed to promise to love, honor, and obeys, and be faithful to her forever, I'd appreciate it if you'd just leave that out." He passes the minister a $100 bill and walks away satisfied. On the day of the wedding, when it comes time for the groom's vows, the pastor looks the young man in the eye and says, "Will you promise to prostrate yourself before her, obey her every command and wish, serve her breakfast in bed every morning of your life, and swear eternally before God and your lovely wife that you will not ever even look at another woman as long as you both shall live?" The groom swallows hard, looks around, and says in a tiny voice, "Yes." He then leans toward the pastor and hisses, "I thought we had a deal." The pastor puts a $100 bill into the groom's hand and whispers, "She made me a better offer." A man in Denver, Colorado, decided to write a book about churches around the country. He started by flying to San Francisco and began working east from there. Going to a very large church, he took photographs and made notes. He spotted a golden telephone on the vestibule wall and was intrigued by a sign which read, $10,000 a minute. Seeking out the pastor, he asked about the phone. The pastor answered that this golden phone is, in fact, a direct line to heaven, and if he pays the price, he can talk directly to God. The man thanked the pastor and continued on his way. As he kept visiting churches in Seattle, Denver, Green Bay, Chicago, Milwaukee, and all around the United States, he found more phones with the same sign and got the same answer from each pastor. Finally, he arrived in Texas. Upon entering a church in Fort Worth, Texas, behold, he saw the usual golden telephone. But this time the sign read, "Calls, 25 cents. Fascinated, he asked to talk to the pastor. "Reverend, I have been in cities all across the country, and in each church I have found this golden telephone and have been told it is a direct line to heaven and that I could talk to God. But in the other churches the cost was $10,000 a minute. Your sign reads 25 cents a call. Why?" The pastor, smiling, replied, "Son, you're in Texas now. This is God's country. It's a local call." On a golf tour in Ireland, Tiger Woods drives his BMW into a petrol station in a remote part of the Irish countryside. The pump attendant, obviously knowing nothing about golf, greets him in a typical Irish manner, completely unaware of who he is speaking with. "Top of the morning to you, sir," says the attendant. Tiger nods a quick "hello" and bends forward to pick up the nozzle. As he does so, 2 teas fall out of his shirt pocket onto the ground. "What are those?" asks the attendant. "They're called teas," replies Tiger. "Well, what on God's earth are they for?" inquires the Irishman. "They're for resting my balls on when I'm driving," says Tiger. "Fucking Jesus!" exclaims the Irishman. "BMW thinks of everything." The Dean of Women at an exclusive girls' school was lecturing her students on sexual morality. "We live today in very difficult times for young people. In moments of temptation," she said, "ask yourself just one question: is an hour of pleasure worth a lifetime of shame?" A young woman rose in the back of the room and said, "Excuse me, but how do you make it last an hour?" A couple is sitting on the porch sipping wine. The wife says, "I love you." The husband says, "Is that you or the wine talking?" The wife replies, "It's me talking to the wine." As he walked down the street, the man couldn't help but feel guilty. He had done something terrible, and he knew that he needed to confess his sins to a priest. He had never been to confession before, but he knew that it was the right thing to do. He approached the confessional booth and knelt down, feeling a wave of shame wash over him. "Father, "Forgive me, for I have sinned," he said, his voice barely above a whisper. The priest on the other side of the screen spoke softly. "What is your sin, my child?" The man hesitated for a moment before blurting out the truth. 3 days ago, my mother-in-law was helping me move some stuff around, and it started to rain. She stayed the night, and we slept together. The priest looked shocked, but composed himself quickly. "Give 3 Hail Marys for this," he said firmly. The man took a deep breath and repeated the prayer as he had been instructed. But he knew that he had more to confess. "Father, forgive me, for I have sinned," he said again. The priest responded, "What is your sin this time, my child?" 2 days ago, I was helping my sister-in-law move, and it started to rain. I stayed the night, and we slept together," the man said, feeling the weight of his guilt. The priest was taken aback. "Give 6 Hail Marys for this," he said sternly. The man repeated the prayer again, and then took another deep breath. "Father, forgive me, for I have sinned," he said once more. The priest let out a heavy sigh. "What is your sin this time, my child?" "Yesterday, my brother-in-law was helping me unpack some stuff, and it started to rain. He stayed the night, and we slept together," the man admitted, feeling the shame wash over him once again. At this, the priest stood up and looked out the window. The man was confused. "Father, what are you doing?" he asked. The priest turned to him, his expression grim. "It's starting to get cloudy," he said. "Get the hell out of here before it starts raining." So Billy Bob and Luther, 2 best friends who grew up in a small town, were sitting on the front porch of Billy Bob's house on a hot summer afternoon. They were reminiscing about the good old days when Billy Bob suddenly said, "You know, I reckon I'm about ready for a vacation. Only this year, I'm going to do it different." Luther looked surprised and asked, "Different? How so?" "Well, the last few years I've been taking your advice about where to go," replied Billy Bob. 3 years ago you said to go to Hawaii. I went to Hawaii, and Margaret got pregnant. Then, 2 years ago, you told me to go to the Bahamas, and Margaret got pregnant again. Last year you suggested Tahiti, and, dagnabbit, Margaret didn't get pregnant again." Luther asked, "So what are you going to do this year that's different?" Billy replied, "I'm taking Margaret with me." A man walks into a bar with a box under his arm and says to the barman, "If I can show you something you have never seen before, will you give me a free drink?" Now the barman has seen mostly everything in his time, says, "Sure, impress me, and I'll give you a free tab for the night." So the man puts down the box and opens it. He then pulls a small piano out of it and places it on the bar, and then a little man as well. The little man walks up to the piano and starts playing. The barman was blown away by this and tells the man he can drink all night for free, as agreed. The barman then asks, "Where did you find the little man?" "Well," says the man, "I found this magic lamp." The man digs into the box and pulls out this old brass oil lamp. "I rubbed it, and a genie appeared. The genie granted me one wish, and then he said I must pass the lamp on to the next person that did me a kindness." "Wow," says the barman. The man then says, "As you gave me free drinks, I'm going to let you have the lamp. Be careful what you wish for, though." So the barman rubs the lamp and then makes his wish. Next thing, the bar has ducks everywhere. The ducks are making one heck of a raucous crapping all over the customers and bar. The barman shouts at the man saying, "I wish for $1,000,000, not 1,000,000 ducks." To this the man replies, "And you think that I wished for a 12-inch pianist?